Welcome to the second interview of seventh season of Smart Talks with Johan, where we explore key topics shaping the future of cybersecurity. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. René Boringer. René serves as Vice President of ESMIG's Executive Committee, where he helps shape cybersecurity and interoperability standards for smart energy technologies. He is also co-founder and chief executive officer of Cuculus GmbH, where he leads the development of innovative smart metering solutions and drives the company's strategic vision in the energy sector. René, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, Johan. Thank you.
Okay, we can start now with the questions. And first question, as you said already, you have an important role in ESMIG's Executive Committee. Since you are deeply involved in the development of smart metering solutions and industry standards, can you tell us more about your work, especially the role of cybersecurity in your field?
Okay, thank you. Yes. So first of all, I'm a kind of a special animal within ESMIG because we are, as Cuculus, a company who is focusing on software only. And ESMIG was founded by smart meter vendors. It's a representation of the smart meter world towards the European Union. And we actually joined that group because we think there should be a broader view on the whole topic, especially also on the security, right? So you cannot just protect the meter, you need to protect the whole solution. That is meter communication, as well as also the backend systems, gathering the data, storing the data, and triggering all the processes. So here we see the value we can add, and I can add myself to the discussion according to cybersecurity, to have the glasses of somebody looking from the backend systems down to the meters. The classical approach of security in smart metering was always coming from the meters upwards, securing mainly the communication, but that is too little. And we would call such an approach a nutshell approach, where you just assume that if you protect your whole bubble of systems and processes on the outside, on the edge, nobody will come in and your problem is solved. That is not the reality for our modern utility systems.
Okay. And what do you see as the biggest cybersecurity challenges for utility companies today? And how can the industry address them?
So in contrast to many others in the market, I don't see meters as the most vulnerable part. I think this is the organization in itself. So it's much easier to be hired as an operator in a utility and then do something really bad with a network than hacking into meters, trying to multiply that in thousands of meters to make a difference. So the one thing is the processes and how the systems are protected from the inside, and the other side is what kind of threat can be added on the physical layer of the system. So nowadays we have a lot of injection of renewables. We have huge consumers that can imbalance the grid, and that has nothing to do with the IT systems we are using, except actually when those IT systems are not fast enough to react to their challenges. So an attack can also come due to taking away renewables, which was planned in for the next 15 minutes, or increasing the consumption, or even decreasing the consumption in an exceptional way, so that it generates a problem in the power quality and the stability of the whole grid.
Okay, but how do you see? You say that you don't see the problem in the meter, you see the problem in the software. So what is your recommendation how to protect the software?
Not in the meters. I'm not saying it's not in the meters. Of course, the meters are also involved. The whole system is involved. So the problem is in the person and in the processes, how we are addressing that. So I'm talking here mainly about resilience of networks. So we should be able to react very fast on these unforeseen events in the network which are causing problems. And that means that the meter, the communication, and the backend system, they need to be able to work together to react immediately and fast. For example, to cut off certain parts of the grid which are causing problems or putting the other part of the grid into the danger, or to balance very fast. So if somebody would try to, for example, reduce the gas control over large power production units and would reduce the load, that you can immediately also reduce the injection, that they can also immediately reduce the load to balance the grid again. So this is a completely different way of dealing with the utility system than it was in the past. In the past, everything was pretty slow, and the impact of something locally, because the impact could only happen local, was not so big than what you have right now, where you have distributed systems, and these systems can also be attacked at the same time on various edges of the grid. So we need another system design, which I call resilient systems, and the security needs to help to keep the system up as long as possible to allow all that mitigative actions to keep the system alive. That's the thing, not to lock somebody out, right? So we assume that there will always be a possibility to break the security in a system, and then the system needs still to be able to function. That is what I call a resilient system.
Mhm. Okay, but do you think that software must be completely separate from all other parts in utility companies, from the people, from the internet, completely separate network for collecting data for meters? In Zakon,
No,
we hear,
I don't think so.
you don't
I
think so?
don't think so. So I mean, there are really, really famous cases where people were running smart meter solutions completely isolated, and then they were hacked. It was very, very easy for these hackers to demonstrate that. So they came through a printer port in the training center of the utility, where people were invited, and suddenly they were in. And again, we are coming to the point that uh, having the software completely isolated might create the false perception that you are safe,
Mhm.
right? And then nobody is taking care if something happens, what then, right? So in that we a system needs to be connected nowadays. There's no way, right? So a meter is out there. It is somehow connected to the internet. Even mobile connections are somehow using the internet in the backbone. So there will always be an exposure of the current backend systems to the internet somehow.
Mhm.
And we are not talking about one connection, what we had in the past, maybe connecting two data centers. We are talking about thousands of connections out there, and not only meters, in the future also gateways controlling EV or PV inverters, heat pumps, and all that stuff which should be connected to the grid. All will be connected through the internet, through the backend systems into the utility. So there is no way to completely lock it and isolated as it was in the past, right? In the past, where you had maximum a workforce system injecting some meter reads into the platform, into a billing system, it is not working anymore. So now we have much more interaction with all the systems. And that will be also the future, that we have much more integration between all their backend systems to be able to exchange data very fast and very efficiently. And that also, of course, expose additional risks, which we have not seen before.
Mhm. Okay, interesting. Because in previous episode we heard for that case with isolated system, and they only take care that someone from the point of meter can disturb the system.
Typically nowadays, when you hack a system, the possibilities to do something in the backend system is very limited, right? Because we have very, very nicely secured connectivity already through very specialized protocols, very limited functionalities available. So the idea that a meter is connected with IP protocols directly to the backend and somebody just has to hack the meter and then he can, I don't know, steal the database of a utility is not realistic. So much more has to be done, and we have a lot of solutions already. No, a lot is too much. We have a few solutions already in the market where we can protect the meter communication and the meter itself in a proper way. So I'm talking here about applying, for example, hardware security modules for the whole communication. So that means that at no moment in time, a key of a meter to encrypt and decrypt the communication with the meter is somewhere available in the internet or even in the processor of a computer. It all stays in a hardened hardware security module. So these are the same techniques which are used nowadays to protect financial trading activities on stock exchanges, and they are also applied for smart meters. They can be applied. It's extremely expensive. That's why we find it not everywhere. But the technology is there already.
But it means that we have additional device in the meter for hardware encrypting.
No, it's no
No?
additional device. That device is sitting on the back end. So you have already a security connection established from the meter. No additional hardware is used in the meter,
Mhm.
but the backend system where all the keys are, right? All the keys are in the backend system of all the meters. That is using a special device, encapsulate all that keys and runs all the communication through that device, right? So that
Mhm.
is the additional security which can be added
Mhm.
on the backend side, on the system side. You don't have to touch your meters for that improvement of security.
Okay, but if I understand, so it is the way to protect the passwords from other.
The whole communication. So nowadays, a meter is not one key, right? So we all remember the old times where every single meter had one key, and that key was the same across the whole meter population in a city or sometimes even in a whole nation.
Mhm.
But nowadays, meters have plenty of keys, right? So in at least 4 to 5 keys, which are representing different roles. So communication, for example, has a different key than when you are sending commands down to the meter. And there's another key which is used to protect, for example, the over-the-air firmware updates, the remote firmware updates. There's another key which is just protecting the communication. So when you're exchanging one of the 3 keys I have mentioned, there is another key which is wrapping that keys and sending it. So the protection level of that communication with the modern protocols for communicating with meters is already pretty high if you are implementing all of that as a utility.
Okay, but we are also aware that it is a special problem for utility to manage the keys, the passwords.
Yes.
Who of
That,
the
that, that
people,
is absolutely correct. Yes.
who of the employees will approach to the keys and what he can do with that.
So utilities need to have key management systems, proper key management systems, which are specialized into the utility needs. You are absolutely right. So suddenly, when you have different keys on every single meter and then various keys, how you manage the workforce, right? If somebody needs to go out to maintain the meter, he need to have the right key to access the meter with the right role. How you get that there? So what happens if the handheld gets lost, which has the key stored? Inside. So you need to have a lot of methods and protections in the background to manage the life cycle of a key or a certificate. So the next level is actually using certificates instead of keys, which is increasing the security again, but also the complexity of managing it. And that is not yet there. So when you look at nowadays setups of utility solutions, meters, then head-end systems. Then in the most of the cases, utilities have multiple meter vendors and all of them come with their own head-end system and all head-end systems have their own key management solution. So now imagine the problem which I have already described before with the management of the keys in a workforce system, that is exponentially going up when you have several head-end systems which all have their own key and their life cycle of keys, and then they need to distribute it through one workforce management system or to the same meter population. So this is an underrated problem at the moment in utilities, how to handle the security material which is needed to communicate and to protect the meters.
Okay. And I must ask you, because we heard a lot of stories about security of equipment, depending from the manufacturers, from the vendors, especially from vendors from China. So what do you think if meter is bought from China? Do you see any additional security problem in that or no?
That's a good question. So I would not say that is a problem of China. We have probably the same problem with many other countries as well. What I think is a meter is an extremely important device, and whoever builds that in should make sure that whoever delivers the device is following the rules. So there should be standard procedures of checking softwares and vulnerability in the meters, especially the software, of course. And that they should apply. It doesn't matter if the meter comes from US, from Europe, or from China, or from Asia in general. So that's my recommendation, to come up with standards how to test and to check the software which runs on the meter. Certification processes, so to say.
So, okay, you think that with testing, with certification process, utility can check the meter and be sure that data from that meter will not go on some server in USA, China, or any other address where utility don't want to send data.
Correct. So depending on what kind of communication solution is used, there are various ways how you can do that and how you can test it. I think it should also not be a one-time action when the batch of delivery is received. It should be a continuous monitoring of the network if something suspicious goes on. And again, then still it should be possible to react in case it happens, right? So what would you do if you find out that a lot of data is going to another server you don't want to see it, right? You're shutting down the meter is impossible, right? So what's the action? Right? It's I think much more harmful to allow the other way downwards. So if somebody can really change something on the meter or switch off the meters, that's of course a bigger threat than if somebody would just read production values or consumption values.
Okay, I agree. The point is to avoid that situation that there is communication with server utility don't want to have. But okay,
Yes.
if I understand you, you believe that with the testing procedure, certification, utility can check everything. And my question is, who is able to check? Okay, maybe utility can do that, but if
One.
utility can do that, do you see any organization which can prove that?
I don't see it, to be honest. I have no answer to that question. That's a good one. So there's nobody from my perspective who can check such full stacks yet. Also, especially since the regulations and the rules in every single country are different, right? So then there must be, if you want to implement something like that, a national certification institute which is checking for vulnerabilities on the software side of the meters. Yeah, who has that competence? I don't know. We are active as Cuculus in many countries around the world, and I have not seen let's say security testing on national level which goes so deep on what we are discussing right now.
Okay, but you didn't see any problem in after implementation of system, this kind of problem.
I have never seen a meter which is communicating to another server.
Okay.
I've seen mail functioning meters, right? But not something where a software on the meter would speak to somewhere else. That I have never seen. And
Okay.
at the moment, we have 25 million meters, households connected to our platform with more than 200 vendors, and it never happened. Right?
Okay. Thank you. You are very experienced. Okay, then after this discussion about of many problems and challenges, can you share some best practices or innovative solutions that have been successfully implemented to strengthen security in utilities? If you have any example from your experience.
So one of the clients we always present as the one who has the highest security levels from our perspective right now, and that is the client in Austria, Salzburg. Salzburg is a city of approximately 500,000 inhabitants. They have their own utility there, and this utility is investing a lot and really creating highly secure setups. So it's one example of that HSM, hardware security module solution, where we are encrypting with a central key management system, also that they have all the communication, all the key exchanges, and so on with this solution. On the other side, there are always measures how to protect the network, how to react in case of what I call day zero attacks. Right. So day zero, the concept of day zero attacks is that something happened nobody could envisage before. Right. That is the big thing of security. Right. To never say this is a completely secured system, because the day zero will happen. It is just a matter of time. So systems should be designed again in a resilient way so that you can survive such a day zero attack. And that already starts with how you're organizing your whole solution. Is it a couple of islands which are connected to each other? So if one is impacted, if one is compromised, you cut the line to the second island so that this second island at least still is alive. And that's why sometimes utilities also separate even the meter population into different systems. So you will see different headends and different MDM systems, maybe same vendor, same kind, but they are isolated so that you're making sure that if one is compromised, the other one can take over, and you're not tearing down a whole country on that. On the other side, of course, I have quite an insight in what's going on in Germany, right? And that is also a very special discussion. In the most of the other countries in the world, we are just talking about smart metering. In Germany, actually, we are talking about smart grid, and I would go even one step further. We are talking about a smart low voltage grid.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of functionality which goes in parallel to the meters, also into assets, controllable assets. That could be renewable generation like PV, but also in controllable demand, which are large heating systems or EV charging. So these two things are controlled and using data from the smart meters to balance the grid. And that is on the low voltage, something which has not been implemented on this kind of broad scope as we try to do that in Germany. That is one reason why we are so slow, because we try to take it, let's say, very broad. The complexity is high and also the threats are high. Right? If you can imagine that a huge amount of PV systems can be just shut down, that can also generate a big problem. Or if a huge amount of consumers, like a lot of heat pumps, are shut down at the same point in time, it can also put the network in trouble, destabilize it, and even lead to whole outages of grid areas. So here we also have, and that's actually our time here is too short to explain what the engineers here and the regulation has invented. But there is a lot of security, insecurity, over security supported by other security solutions. It's incredible complex. And here my fear is coming in. Also, it's not always good to have very, very high and complex, especially complex security solution, because it makes it also it makes it very difficult to identify threats and to react in case something is happening, right? So the easiest and simple systems is the easiest to control and to bring back into balance again.
Yeah. Okay, if I understand, in Germany, you are trying with the implementation of smart meters to solve some problems of flexibility.
Exactly. So it's absolutely part of flexibility. And here we are in another problem that in the most of the cases, let's say the requirement for smart metering was coming to everybody's mind very early, but still it's not implemented. And now we are bypassed by that flexibility needs, right? That is our real problem, what we have right now. So we have to marry the smart metering with the flexibility, and that in itself is a challenge, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, it is interesting. And also the example of Austria is interesting. You mentioned Salzburg, and if I understand the organization of system in the islands to be able to attack the island. But it is also because in last episode, Maximilian explained us that because in Austria there are a lot of utilities and they are connected between themselves and they have some system for alarming. And if one utility is attacked, all other utilities will have information about that and be able to protect.
Yeah, that's a very, very simple method, but I think extremely powerful. So
Yeah,
everybody should monitor, that is correct. And then one step more would be to exchange that information with the other ones. Yes.
yeah,
So we see now, especially on the side of the Eastern Europe customers, that they are facing plenty of attacks every single day, where some guys trying to compromise the systems. So they feel now the the power which is coming from the outside and attacking the solution. And of course, not only that you are attacked, but also how you solve that attack or how you pushed it back is extremely valuable knowledge for all the utilities. And you're right. So thinking about that idea, it sounds great to have even, let's say, a general platform to exchange that knowledge, right? In a very structured way. That would be really helpful for all utilities out there.
Okay, René. This concludes the first part of our conversation. Stay tuned for the second part, where we'll talk more about cybersecurity regulations, future developments, and key lessons from his career.